Part of the Dakota Access Pipeline was going to be built under the Missouri River. And their concern was that water was the only water source of the Standing Rock Sioux. So that was the main issue, that their only source of water was going to be contaminated by the Dakota Access Pipeline. That land that they were digging up was sacred land. It was land that was never ceded to the United States. So they really had, even though they called it private land, it was really still nation land. So they really didn't have the right to dig through there. They were contaminating people's water supply. So there was just so many things happening on all fronts. I remember first seeing, like on Facebook, I remember seeing short videos that the Standing Rock tribe produced, and that really like moved me. I was like, wow. It was almost like a call to action, like they were asking their like Native brothers and sisters to come out and support them. This opportunity kind of fell in my lap. We go out to Standing Rock, and at the time the camp was growing. It had started out as very small, and then when we got there it was starting to get bigger. While we were there, we kind of went up to where the protest site was, and at the time it was the weekend, so they didn't think any type of activity was going to be going on because the workers usually didn't work on weekend. The whole group went to the drill site, and sure enough there was like the backhoes and all the bulldozers, and they were just like tearing up the land. And mind you, this was that land, the sacred land where they had, you know, their ancestors buried. So people were watching it. There was just like a mixture of fury and despair, like just being there. And I was just like heartbroken. Like in the distance there was this like helicopter just buzzing. So it was this really like surreal feeling. And I don't know what happened. I mean, at first everybody was just kind of shouting out insults to the DAPL from the fence, and then all of a sudden something happened and the fence was down and people were just kind of like rushing. It was just like electrifying. I felt like crying. One of the most emotional experiences I've ever had in my life. And then behind me there was women who were linking their arms together, and they were just trying to like push forward. There was like elders and just like a group of women, and that's when like things started to get like really crazy, and that's when a lot of like the direct confrontation happened. They were pepper spraying people, and that was really the first time that they were really using pepper spray. Like nobody was expecting that. And then when we got to that site, that's when the people started really unleashing the dogs. They had the bite dogs jumping up and like biting people. That lasted for about 5 to 10 minutes. And then finally they backed up and they left, but already like so much had been done. That was the first real big visible confrontation between DAPL and the water protectors. People really started to taking Standing Rock really seriously, I think. At first we didn't know what we wanted to do. You know, I knew there was a lot of people that were really invested in the cause. We wanted to plan something like a march. And at first people threw out places like Washington, D.C. and New York City. And actually a friend of mine, she's like, don't do it there. You're just going to get lost in the mix. Everybody goes to D.C. She goes, why don't you have it at your home? Why don't you have it in your land? So symbolic, you know, to start at Onondaga and then end at, you know, at the bank, you know. So we decided to do it, and it was kind of like nerve-wracking. We only really had like a week and a half to plan it, and a lot of people were like, oh, that's really far. Are you going to have buses? You know, what kind of transportation are you going to have for elders? And so we marched the 6 miles. People were in that community were so supportive. People came out of their houses and they were like raising their fists, and people were just great. They really came together for this, and it was like a really beautiful show of unity. And I really do think that people just in general, they are becoming more aware of what's going on with our land, with our water. I'm hoping that this next generation will really take their job as caretakers of this land seriously, because this generation going out, they didn't do a very good job. And hopefully this next generation will be like, okay, now we have to sustain it and kind of just live a completely different lifestyle than we have. Like I said, I feel very encouraged by that, and I think that we're going to see some really amazing changes in the next few years.